one of the scientists that came out and said they thought that they were being threatened and stalked.
We've heard that from multiple cases.
What could be the reason why 11 NASA and nuclear scientists have been mysteriously going missing or dying? We're gonna break down the evidence and piece it together using forensic psychology to find out. So now, let's get started.
Everyone has a bit of a mystery to their passing, and people are wondering, with the very similar backgrounds, extremely bright people, extremely successful people, extremely valuable people, is this all related?
UFO expert disappeared from his home on February 27th.
First, William Neal McCaslin, age 68, is a retired U.S. Air Force Major General and former commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory.
General McCaslin, for example, is someone that we had reached out to twice to try to get some answers from. He is someone who is a critical role working for the Air Force, particularly when it came to research. He was the one that oversaw a lot of this advanced research. He was someone that was very difficult to get a hold of. We reached out to him twice, and then he just mysteriously disappeared.
He mysteriously vanished from his home in Albuquerque, New Mexico on February 27th, 2026, within just a 1-hour window while his wife was out for an appointment.
My husband is missing.
Okay.
And it's been about 3 hours, and I have some indication that he must have planned not to be found. He's left his phone. He changed his clothes into I don't know what. I think he's on foot. All of our cars and bicycles are in the garage. I left for a doctor's appointment at about 11:10, and he was here at that time at the house. And I got back from that at noon, and he was gone. He turned it off and left it behind, which seems kind of deliberate because he's always got his phone.
Has he ever done this before?
Never. Nothing even remotely like it. He's a retired Air Force Major General. He's very responsible.
He left behind his phone, his smartwatch, his eyeglasses.
His wife didn't know if any guns were missing from his gun safe, but officials from the sheriff's office later reported that he was missing a revolver. He didn't take his phone, didn't take his wallet, nothing that he would need, not his glasses.
He wouldn't commonly hike with a weapon on him.
Some people think, well, maybe he was trying to end it for himself, and that's what it was. Well, he hasn't been found yet. If someone sadly decided to do that in a more remote place, why wouldn't they bring their glasses to see where they're going? And also, why hasn't their body been found yet? A person without their glasses and their smartphone isn't going to make it very far, typically, unless it's a very specific situation where there's an actual plan in place, whether it's his plan or maybe some other person or group's plan in place for him.
McCaslin was also the former research commander at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico, which works closely on national security projects with Los Alamos National Laboratory, famous for developing nuclear weapons during the Manhattan Project.
The 68-year-old general didn't take his car, didn't take his bike, didn't take anything like that. So therefore, to make it out of that area, provided he just didn't take public transportation to Mexico or something, he probably would have had to meet up with somebody. The question remains is, who did he meet up with for him to just magically disappear?
JPL's former newly appointed director of its materials processing group, Monica Reza, mysteriously went missing in June of 2025 while hiking with friends in the Angeles National Forest in California, and hasn't been seen since.
Now, Monica Reza, materials engineer at NASA who co-patented Mondalloy, a high-strength nickel superalloy used in rocket engines, she mysteriously disappeared on June 22nd, 2025 during a hike in the Angeles National Forest.
She was hiking with a group of people, not alone, vanishes. She was some 30 feet away from her companions, and then she's just gone. And they've found no sign of her whatsoever.
Her hiking companions reported she was roughly 30 feet behind them, smiling and waving, but mysteriously vanished when they turned back to look to check on her.
Vanishes into thin air. There's very little known about this search, but what I could find was that they had a canine dog. They were sniffing around. They found a hat. Her scent stopped at this hat.
Just gone. They found her hat somewhere, and that's it. They were hiking, walking, they look for her. They're like, oh, she's back there. Hi, I'm here. Couple minutes later, they look back. She's not there. Vanished. completely gone off of the face of the earth. It's possible she just decided to leave her current life behind and live a completely new life somewhere else. However, if she wanted to do that, why would she do that when she's hiking with her friends? A person is more likely to do that when they're alone and they're not likely to get caught. Like, hey, Monica, where are you going? Oh, well, I'm going to leave my life behind. I'm going to see you guys never. I don't want to ever talk to you guys again. And I want to live my life in Indonesia, for example. That doesn't make any sense. It's possible she was taken by a wild animal, like a mountain lion or a bear, but you would actually hear the bear or mountain lion. It would typically not be a very quiet situation if a wild animal swooped in and taking Monica as prey. Therefore, it seems rare, but it could be that she was taken against her will. Is it possible Monica got lost in the woods and never seen again? Yeah, it's possible. But this was just a little hiking trail they were on. This was not in the backcountry where there wasn't any trails.
In the case of Monica Reza, the experienced hiker went missing during a hike last year here in Southern California. She had worked with General William McCasland, a so-called UFO gatekeeper who also went missing just 2 months ago.
Reza's research in materials science was funded by the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Base in Ohio, which is long rumored to hold extraterrestrial debris. The Air Force Research Lab was headed up by retired Air Force General William McCasland, who also has shockingly gone missing.
Now, Stephen Garcia, 48, was a government contractor at the Kansas City National Security Campus, which produces non-nuclear components for the U.S. nuclear arsenal.
He had top security clearance at KCNSC out of New Mexico. He was in charge of all of the classified equipment and assets.
He was oddly last seen leaving his Albuquerque, New Mexico home on foot on August 28th, 2025. He left his phone, wallet, and car, but was seen on surveillance footage carrying a handgun. Very confusing. Here's the thing. Yes, sadly, some people decide to end it for themselves. However, they're usually found, especially if you're just walking on foot without a phone or wallet. You're not going to make it very far. Therefore, since Stephen hasn't been found yet, it appears he may have met up with somebody. But the question is, who? We're going to be discussing who Stephen and possibly others here have met up with. Now, Melissa Casillas, 53, an administrative worker at Los Alamos National Laboratory, who also has a security clearance, disappeared on June 26th. 2025, after dropping lunch off for her daughter.
Casillas, age 54, was last seen on camera walking alone on a highway, also without her wallet, phone, or keys, after telling family members she would be working from home.
She was last seen on surveillance footage walking briskly along State Road 518. Now, if that's all not creepy yet, listen to this. Her personal and work phones were found at home, both wiped to factory settings. Now, Anthony Chavez, 79, a former employee at Los Alamos National Laboratory, vanished on May 4th, 2025, after leaving his home in Los Alamos on foot. Like the others, he mysteriously left his car, keys, phone, wallet, all at home. Those were the missing cases, and now we also have the ones that were confirmed deceased.
Renowned astrophysicist Carl Grillmeyer, who worked on NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope, was suddenly and shockingly shot dead on the porch of his home in California.
Carl Grillmeyer, 67, a Caltech astrophysicist who was known for his work on dark matter and galactic structures, was fatally shot outside his home in California on February 16th, 2026. It was a very odd situation where this guy trespassed onto his property with a gun. Carl calls the police, has him arrested, then this guy is released, comes back to Carl's house, and then shoots him dead. It's extremely odd. Is it or is it not related to all these other cases? We don't really know, but it's such an odd circumstance.
I'm Nuno Loureiro. I'm a professor at MIT.
Now, Nuno Loureiro, 47, a nuclear physicist and director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center, was sadly shot dead in his home in Brookline, Massachusetts on December 15th, 2025. Authorities linked the killing to a suspect who committed a separate shooting at Brown University before ending himself. This one may or may not be connected to the others, but nevertheless, it's quite mysterious that these high-ranking scientists are sadly dying in very odd, mysterious ways. Now, Jason Thomas, 45, a pharmaceutical scientist and associate director at Novartis, reported missing in December 2025 after leaving his home late at night. His body was recovered 3 months later from a lake in Massachusetts after the ice thawed.
I started the Institute for one reason, as a public-facing persona, to disclose anti-gravity technology through.
Now, Emily Eskridge, just 34 years old, was a Huntsville, Alabama-based researcher of anti-gravity and experimental propulsion technology.
Eskridge also revealed that she had been receiving threats and that she had plans to disclose information about UFOs and extraterrestrials to the public.
She was found dead in 2022 from a gunshot wound that was ruled that she did it herself.
If you stick your neck out in public, at least someone notices if your head gets chopped off.
However, oddly, right before her death, she warned everyone that her life was in danger and that she was being targeted.
Just before her death, Amy Eskridge had announced plans to present her groundbreaking work with anti-gravity technology. She had expressed that her life was in danger at the time. Eskridge worked closely with her father. And according to NASA, Richard Eskridge is a retired engineer whose many projects included novel work on a system to propel a spacecraft with high-speed plasmoids.
Now, Frank Mywald, 61 years old, was a principal researcher at NASA. He died on July 4th, 2024 in Los Angeles.
Frank Maywald, he was a NASA JPL scientist. He was a principal researcher at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab. And so he was trying to detect signs of human life on other planets.
No cause of death was publicly disclosed, and reports indicate no autopsy was performed. Now, Michael Hicks, 59, was a NASA researcher who worked on the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, which was designed to test planetary defense. Michael sadly died on July 30th, 2023. And similar to Mywald, no official cause of death has been released to the public.
3 other scientists with ties to NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, or JPL, have either gone missing or died over the past few years.
After going through all the circumstances of these missing scientists and deaths of these scientists, what do you notice? The deaths could be nefarious, but we just don't have a lot of information. However, the missing scientists seem to have a very strong correlation with their circumstances of how they became missing.
Monica Reza, you've got Anthony Chavez, you got Melissa Cassius, and you have Stephen Garcia, all of which, along with General McCaslin, walked out of their homes, or in the case of Mrs. Reza, she disappeared on a hike without their phones. They just literally disappeared, left all of their devices at home. This is not normal. These are some of the most advanced scientists, researchers in our nation, some of the most important people for our nation's national security efforts, and they all just mysteriously disappeared.
What we're noticing, especially with these missing scientists, is that they are leaving on their own. They're leaving on foot, no tracking device, and many times they're seen with a gun. What it appears they want you to believe is that they left somewhere to not be found and just end it themselves. However, that doesn't seem to be the case.
This is too coincidental.
Yes, their remains aren't being found at all in these situations, and also this type of behavior is becoming oddly very patterned and very, very common among these missing scientists. Therefore, this seems to indicate that there is a common force involved here. Therefore, it appears they're being taken by foreign intelligence services. I want to be clear, taken and not kidnapped. It's because taken is more broad and we don't really know the entire circumstances of how they're being taken. It's not very hard to figure out that this is likely foreign intelligence because the United States does very similar things abroad with the CIA. Naturally, a lot of people have the false idea that working at the CIA is like being James Bond.
The hell do you want? I don't need a goddamn wheelchair.
No?
You do now.
However, it's not nearly that cool. A lot of what CIA officers do, those are the CIA employees, what they do abroad is actually recruit foreign agents. And do you know what these foreign agents give the CIA? Yes, it's many times very secretive, classified information from all these other countries. For example, a CIA officer may recruit a Russian scientist who's working on Russian missile technology. The Russian scientist gives the United States some secretive information about what they're doing and working on with all their missile technology. In return, gives this Russian scientist millions of dollars. However, there usually comes a time when that Russian agent realizes that people are starting to kind of catch on that he seems to have a little extra money than he used to have. Where is he getting all this money? He's acting a little more suspicious at work, asking about all these other projects that the Russian government is involved in. He may not be passing the polygraph test that the Russian government gives all their employees. So that Russian scientist quickly realizes that it's time to get the heck out of Russia before something really bad happens to him and his family. So what happens is that Russian scientist, who's acting as a Russian agent for the United States, he tells the CIA officer that things don't look very good and that he needs to get out of the country. The CIA officer then arranges for that Russian foreign agent and his whole family to leave Russia. And sometimes when that foreign agent leaves the country, they're going to ask, well, could I work for your country? And they'll say, okay, sure. And they give them a job working in rocket technology for the United States. That's a very abbreviated example of how the US CIA operates in foreign countries. The point is that the circumstances of many of these missing scientists have foreign intelligence written all over it. And you may be asking, how does foreign intelligence even get a hold of these people? How do they even know these people? Well, they do a lot of intelligence. I mean, that's the point, right? They spy on them for months, years. Foreign intelligence such as Russia, China, countries that start with I, they first know where these top secret people work. They then know where they live, and then they know where they occupy. With that information, they try to get to know and start to get close to those who have top secret clearance. Obviously, social media is very helpful to have an idea of who could possibly have top secret clearance. Dating websites can direct foreign intelligence to certain people who they may believe have top secret clearance. The foreign intelligence officer goes on a date with the person that they believe could be a really good agent for them to obtain classified information. Also, since people who have top secret clearance all generally work together, and there's a lot of them that work in a location together, then all you need to do is find out where all those employees that have all this top secret information like to casually hang out after work. Bar, bowling alley, comedy club, anywhere that's basically around where they work is probably gonna be a good place to find some of those people that have that type of top secret clearance at that place of work. And anyone who's saying at this point, stop giving foreign intelligence tips on how to obtain US classified information. They're already doing this. This is actually very common. I'm not telling them anything they don't already know. The scientists that are supposedly missing, they were likely in contact with foreign intelligence for months or even years prior to them missing. And they were possibly offered even more money to leave and work for the foreign government, or they were starting to realize that maybe they were going to be found out, whether they were still working at the company and they were starting to be found out that they were betraying their own country. Then they found that it could be a lot safer for them to leave the country. Or they could have been threatened by foreign intelligence to either comply with their demands, or else bad things could happen to them or their families. Therefore, it's possible that a foreign intelligence agency may have instructed them to stage their disappearances in that way, to suggest to anyone who investigates their missing circumstances that it would appear they chose to end themselves privately, where they would never be found. This may explain that apparent pattern in which multiple scientists left their homes without phones or smartwatches, devices that could track their movements, and in many cases reportedly took a handgun with them. The reality is that this type of thing occurs in nearly every developed country in the entire world. Here's a little tip. Anytime something very odd occurs, whether someone becomes missing or someone mysteriously dies and there's no real explanation, there's a good likelihood that it's foreign intelligence involved. And you may be saying, okay, well, the missing people could be chalked up to foreign intelligence. But what about the deaths? Are those foreign intelligence too? Possibly, but less likely. It could be that scientists die too, that, yeah, scientists have unfortunate events happen to them too, so they're just like anybody else. That's a possibility for some. However, for others, domestic security contractors could be responsible.
There were guys that were following me around. I didn't think it was beyond them at all to make me disappear. I mean, who knows? I know it sounds more like a movie, but I didn't think it was beyond their capability to kill me. The following day, I went to Indian Springs Air Force Base. That interrogation was about as intense as you can possibly get. right stopping short of shooting me in the head. Everything. They threatened my wife. They said they'd stop at nothing. They said they thought they made that very clear. They couldn't believe that I had taken anyone out there to show them that, much less left with information like the flight test data, and wanted to know what else I had said, who else I had told specifically.
A lot of people have the very simple idea that, well, the US government has law enforcement, and that's the only type of enforcement that the US government has. No, unfortunately, there's other types of rare enforcement that is done. They're not FBI, they're not local police, they're not sheriff, they're not state police. These specialized security contractors hired by the US government are tasked with securing classified government information, where they often work beyond the boundaries of the law to secure classified information. Some of you may be shocked by the amount of power the government can wield by simply claiming it's for national security purposes.
Bob says that he was put under constant surveillance by security personnel. His phones were tapped, his movements were monitored.
They often use means of intimidation of people who have classified and top secret clearance.
It was a white, boxy looking car. Exactly what make and model, I don't know. But I accelerated to get on the freeway to go fast, and there was a gunshot, and the back of the car was hit, and I skidded off into the median. It was an attempt on my life, but by who specifically, I don't know. Though I was threatened before I had left, that they threatened my wife's life and my life, so I can only put two and two together and say that they were kind of pissed at me.
It rarely leads to scrubbing people, although it can, but it mostly is bullying and intimidation of anybody who has top secret clearance and may be at risk of sharing that top secret information to foreign entities. It's possible that some of these deceased scientists were scrubbed, but we don't really know for sure how many or if any of these were specifically scrubbed like the way I'm talking about. Again, both of these situations of domestic security or foreign intelligence is quite rare, and it's not very common, although it does occasionally happen. However, given the fact that the United States is currently at war with Iran and Israel's involved, and then also if you think about Russia is at war with Ukraine, and the United States is supplying Ukraine with weapons, and there's a second space race between the United States and China now to get to the moon and occupy the moon. Therefore, it's becoming much more likely that foreign intelligence agencies are targeting the United States scientists to gain top secret information from the United States. Therefore, in this climate, it becomes much more likely that the United States is going to take much more steeper measures to keep top secret information within the United States, and it does not leak out to our foreign adversaries.
There's obviously been some sort of an effort to erase your past.
Yeah.
An effort to erase your education history, your employment history.
George Knapp is the Las Vegas TV reporter who first aired Bob Lazar's amazing claims. He says he ran into unusual problems just trying to look into Lazar's background. Though Lazar claimed to have once worked at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, government officials denied they knew anything about him. But when Knapp came up with a phone directory listing Lazar's name, Los Alamos grudgingly admitted he had spent some time there.
With the Social Security Administration, we found that Bob Lazar's records had in fact been bleached clean. There was nothing there, in spite of the fact that the document clearly indicated that Social Security taxes had been taken out of his pay.
I think it's mainly the technology. They just want to keep the technology secret.
Now in the comments, which country do you think is most responsible for our missing and deceased U.S. scientists? Let everyone know in the comments below. Subscribe for more. And if you want exclusive content and channel perks, hit that join button now below, because your support makes all of this possible. The funny thing is that the president was like, oh, well, we're going to be looking into it. They're never going to tell you the truth if it is foreign intelligence. So don't ever think that if it's foreign intelligence, they're going to say, oh, well, it was foreign intelligence this whole time, and we have spies in this country. No. It's one of those dark things that the government doesn't want to ever really talk about. They don't really talk about the United States operating in other countries, gaining intelligence in other countries, and the United States does not like talking about how there's naturally foreign intelligence operating in the United States and gaining classified secrets of the United States to do the United States technically harm. So don't ever expect that they're going to fess up to it. It's one of those things they never want to admit, they never talk about. See you next time.